for the in the 19th century they were called robber barons. Not a very pretty name, okay, but some of the possibilities here have been moved towards. There's been an approach, and still much work to be done. Number 4, in what way can the law of supply and demand be implemented so that there is justice for all and plenty for all? And that's obviously the goal. When you see what's wasted, you know it's a crime. Number 5, must some form of totalitarian control be adopted by the various world governments in order to meet the requirements of supply and demand? Must we legislate for material ends and comfort? Number 6, what standard of living in the new age seems essential to man? Shall we have a purely materialistic civilization, or shall we have a spiritual world trend, you know? And the idea of Aquarius being the sign of an enlightened approach to matter comes in here. A kind of spiritual materialism or respect for the matter element. Number 7, what must be done to prevent the moneyed interests from again mobilizing for the exploitation of the world? It is their tendency to do so, and there has been movement in that direction, aided and abetted by the extremely rapid communication system which has evolved, for better or for worse. The problem, we understand, is selfishness. And finally, number 8, what really lies at the very heart of the modern materialistic difficulty? That's a more searching question, isn't it? It has a lot to do with the quality of the desire body of man and from what level of that desire body he is functioning. The last question can be answered in the well-known words, quote, "The love of money is the root of all evil." Well, you know, the desire for what money can buy and a kind of adherence to the tendencies of the desire body, this is the root of all evil. It keeps us from altruism and truly desiring for the good of all. He goes on, this throws us back on the fundamental weakness of humanity, the quality of desire. Of this, money is the result and the symbol. So that's the final issue there. How do we, in fact, change the quality of our desires so that they work towards the good? And, and let us remember what the Christ said, that whatever shall be asked in his name and with faith in the response shall see it accomplished. So that brings us to today's reading from the simple, and may I say, reflection upon the reading as we go. It's with a meditative attitude that we approach these relevant readings. From the simple process of barter and exchange, as practiced by the primeval savage, to the intricate and formidable financial and economic structure of the modern world, desire is the underlying cause. I mean, you know, when you get into some of the manipulations that surround the procedures in the stock market, we find that they are complex indeed, and there are various trigger points and points that reveal danger or new possibility. I think a lot of the very intelligent third ray has to be used in that business. So desire is the underlying cause, whether we're speaking of simple barter and exchange or something, you know, much higher that has to do with the exchange of the symbols which humanity has decided upon to mobilize their activity to fulfill desire. It demands the satisfaction of sensed need, the desire for goods and possessions, the desire for material comfort, for the acquisition and the accumulation of things. We do remember how strongly the fifth ray is involved in the overproduction of things. So desire is the underlying cause, and money is the symbol which men agree upon in order to liberate their activity to fulfill the desire of those who give them the symbol, the money. The desire for power and the supremacy which money alone can give, it certainly does for most people raise their status. It raises their status in the eyes of the many. When the esotericist looks on, as Moria tends to emphasize, all of the material needs may be taken care of, but the soul is in prison and chained. This desire controls and dominates human thinking, at least at the present time and for the majority of human beings. It is the keynote of our modern civilization. Think about that. The desire to have, to hold, to obtain what one wants, which is usually interpreted in materialistic terms, which means interpreted in terms of what the lowest senses report. It is also, says the Tibetan, the octopus which is slowly strangling human life, enterprise and decency. It is the millstone around the neck of mankind. I think the Buddha foresaw, as did the Christ, how very dire desire could become in the life of humanity, and the Buddha's main point was to teach liberation from desire by seeing it for what it truly is. When it comes to the Christ, he knew the low vibration into which ordinary desire leads, and he sought to inspire men towards their Father in heaven and towards the whole initiatory possibility. DK goes on here, to own, to possess, and to compete with other men for supremacy has been the keynote of the average human being, man against man, householder against householder, business against business, organization against organization, party against party, nation against nation, labor against capital, so that today it is recognized that the problem of peace and happiness is primarily related to the world's resources and to the ownership of these resources. I don't know how it's happened, but I've experienced it, and the monkeys, some of them are individualized, the great apes, and the monkeys are very close, and they have this acquisitive urge, and they do steal from those who are looking at them as if they're simply part of a zoo. The next thing you know, your camera is gone, or some other item that you're carrying. That's how quick it is. This desire to have what the other person has or what the other being has. Theft is a very great problem and leads to disease, as does in the Yoga Sutras, as does covetousness, wanting what the other person has. Then we come to Ralph Waldo Emerson saying that any of this covetousness, this longing for what is possessed by the other, is extreme foolishness. We have to evolve it from ourselves. And so this materialism that's here described is still a huge problem, the problem of competition and not cooperation, which could elevate everybody. No, the ego, the little ego demands that there be a winner and that someone emerge as the best on top, better than all the others. And it shows functioning according to the great heresy of separativeness. Just think, when the desire is something entirely different, to see one's brothers raised along with oneself. He goes on here, the dominating words in our newspapers, over our radios, and in all our discussions are based upon financial structure and human economy. Well, you really do see people give earnest attention to that which affects their economy. So that has evolved into kind of a little terse mantram, It goes something like this: it's the economy, stupid. Meaning that that's what men will vote for, rather than something which really has to do with human welfare. Yeah. So, the dominating words in our newspaper, and I wonder if in our conversation in our homes, and as we try to work out the economy of the household and having enough to get what one wants, they're based upon the financial structure of human economy. Banking interests, salaries, national debts, reparations, cartels and trusts, finance, taxation. These are the words which control our planning, arouse our jealousies. He or she has more than I. Feed our hatreds. I hate him or her because he or she has more than I. Feed our hatreds or our dislike of the other nations. Why do they do so well and I do so badly? Why is my nation poor and theirs rich? And set us once one against the other. And then he repeats, the love of money is the root of all evil. Well, what have you noticed? Power and money do dominate the human discourse in the newspapers and news feeds. I think so. And always the money is the indicator. Follow the money, we're told, if you want to know what really happened. It's the great motivator for the majority of human beings, and this has to be solved. There are, however, says the Tibetan, large numbers of people whose lives are not dominated by the love of money, who can normally think in terms of the higher values. They are the hope of the future, but are individually imprisoned in the system which spiritually must end. Now that is italicized, the word must. Just like the triangle's work is the work that must go on, so this domination of the consciousness by the love of money, that must end. Though they do not love money, they need it and must have it. The tentacles, there we think of the spider and the octopus and all those, the number 8 associated with Scorpio, and the third ray and the illusion of materiality. Though they do not love money, they need it and must have it. The tentacles of the business world surround them. They think. Well, so, though they do not love money, they need it. The tentacles of the business world surround them. It's a ray that's out of alignment and very powerful. They too must work and earn it's a symbolic wherewithal to live. They're not making their own products by and large. Some now are leaving the centers of population and going off and doing that. The work they seek to do to aid humanity cannot be done without the required funds. The churches are materialistic in their mode of work. We know the Calvinists, John Calvin with his moon in Taurus and his ascendant, his sun sign as Cancer. If you're rich, it proves God loves you. Okay, well, there's lots of other interpretations here. So, the churches, the big mega churches, amazingly materialistic. So this work that has to be done cannot be done without the required funds. The churches are materialistic in their mode of work. After caring for the organizational aspects of their work, there is little left. little time, little energy for the Christ's work, for simple spiritual living. The task facing the men and women of goodwill in every land today seems too heavy, and the problems to be solved seem well nigh impossible. Men and women of goodwill are now asking the questions: can the conflict between capital and labor be ended, and the new world be thereby reborn? Can living conditions be so potently changed that the right human relations can be permanently established? Well, next time we'll continue, and the Tibetans' note of hope will be sounding. These relationships can be established, and for the following reasons. So I'll just mark that. Just to stay oriented, and it will be the 13th, and it will probably be a morning session. We will also have a full moon on that day, so we'll see what best should be done. But for the moment, we'll say beginning on the 13th of October, 2019, and capital and labor. Well, it's such a mundane subject, all this, and so serious at the same time due to the symbolism which we have chosen to work with. You know, instead of simple barter and exchange, of course, DK did warn that money could be removed if we did not begin to use it more wisely, and I think that would set the world back pretty far. But there are other methods of operating, and of course the goodwill and love in the heart and the realization of brotherhood and sisterhood. These are factors which are completely necessary if the changes are to occur, the required changes. Okay, now let's I'm trying to see whether everything's coming through to you. I hope so. And we'll get into our meditation in just a moment. Yeah. Right. You know, we students of esotericism, we have lots to think about, a lot to think about. And it cannot only be on the esoteric side. Maybe our approach is esoteric, but there are many mundane problems to be solved, and to solve them we have to enter deeply into the world Maya, into the world illusion, into the world glamour, and somehow apply what we know to rid human consciousness of these factors. So let's get into the work here, knowing how pressing it is to solve this problem. The idea here is that, and we'll ponder it, to those who give shall be given, so that they can give again. And as the masters well know, to those who give all is given. And that is the height of selflessness. And we'll work our way there. Notice in this image that the bill, is it a Benjamin Franklin on the $100 American bill? It's shaped like a heart. And he was an initiate. And the planet Venus, so connected with money, was in Capricorn at the very top of his chart. He handled the entire Revolutionary War through his own personal checking account and checking or bank account, let's say. He came up 1 farthing short, and he presented the farthing with the books at the end of the war. Now that is the responsible use of the resources. So we'll ask ourselves some questions. In the light of the soul. And we're used to asking ourselves these questions, but always, something new may arise for us. So we achieve that positive and intended personality quietness, and we formulate clearly to ourselves and in our own words the answers to the following questions. A soul answer, as it were. Number 1. If money is one of the most important things needed today for spiritual work, what is the factor which at present is deflecting it away from the work of the hierarchy? What is my personal attitude towards money? Do I regard it as a great and possible spiritual asset, or do I think of it in material terms? Number 3, what is my personal responsibility in regard to money which passes through my hands? Am I handling it as a disciple of the masters should handle it? These are important questions the light of the soul should shine upon our answer and through our answer. Now in this work, somewhat on the third ray, the creative imagination is very important. And we're going to ponder then on the redemption of humanity through the right use of money. If only it could overcome Hercules, the Hercules in humanity, if only it could overcome the Hydra, the wrong use of financial resources through fear and the desire to be protected from the environment. We're all Hercules, and this is really a big one to solve, because that third star, Alioth, from which the third ray comes immediately into our solar system, is in a sense out of alignment or sponsoring processes which are not being completed correctly. So it's a struggle, but the right use of resources can bring in the new age. It's very much a Taurian struggle, although there are other signs, Libra, Capricorn, very much associated with the financial factor. So somehow we'll manage this. There's the right use as well as the wrong use, and let's visualize both. The money in the world today has concretized energy, in a way crystallized prana, at present largely used for purely material purposes and for the satisfaction, where the individual is concerned, of purely personal desires. Right there in the use of the word person, personality, we understand the problem. The energies of human beings keep on being directed through the wrong use of money towards the perpetuation of factors which should have been outlived. So we can also visualize the money in the world used differently and with a real heart in it. We can visualize it as a great stream of flowing golden substance, like, the prana or the energy which is needed to manifest that which is truly spiritually needed. So a great stream of flowing golden substance passing out of the control of the forces of materialism, out of the dark into the control of the forces of light. Let's see that happening. Into the hands of the Christ, into the hands of his masters, his students, into the hands of the initiates, who are the students of the masters, and into the hands of the disciples who can be trusted to spend this symbol in a way that will really help humanity. And this will change the world if we manage, and we must. Or, as the Tibetan has said, if we don't solve the problems, humanity will no longer continue. Very dire. But then we say this world prayer concerning the right use of financial resources. We say it with focused mental concentration and from a heartfelt desire to meet spiritual demands. O Thou, in whom we live and move and have our being, the power that can make all things new. Turn to spiritual purposes the money in the world. Touch the hearts of men everywhere, so that they may give to the work of the hierarchy that which has hitherto been given to material satisfaction. The new group of world servers needs money in large quantities. I ask that the needed vast sums be made available. May this potent energy of thine be in the hands of the forces of light. And when we give, let us discriminate at the groups, the individuals, the projects, whatever, towards which we offer, are representing the forces of light. And then we think about the work to be done by those groups which claim our present allegiance, any group which we may know about that is attempting to carry out the hierarchical plan. There are so many, worthy projects. People like ourselves, we have to choose what we will support, and if I may say, since so few people realize the value of the esoteric world work, then that has to be supported by those who understand its value. So anyway, among these individuals, these groups, these projects, that whether they know it or not are carrying out an aspect of the hierarchical plan. Then through the creative imagination and by an act of the will, we see untold and unlimited sums of money pouring into the hands of those who seek to do the Master's work. And then we say this powerful mantra: He for whom the whole world waits has said that whatsoever shall be asked in his name, and with faith in the response, will see it accomplished. And we must remember, as we make this assertion, that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Somehow we're touching the future with faith, and we're touching the desirable condition of fulfillment through faith. And then we come to the direct demand, our requests. I ask the needed money for, and then we name the specifics of what we're asking it for. So we'll do that first. I ask the needed money for and I can demand it, the needed money, because from the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. It has to work out through humanity. We have to, with the help of hierarchy, solve our own problems, and one of the great problems here is bringing true hierarchical motivation into the consciousness of the human race. And we work with the great Lord, with the presence of the great Lord as we do this, the head of the hierarchy, and in a way the heart of the hierarchy. And we say, we have gathered in your name, Lord Maitreya, be with us. This problem will be solved. It's a question of timing and whether there will be delay or not. 300 years is given as the period of maximum delay, but every once in a while the Tibetan warns about the possible disappearance of the human race. Back to ground zero, as it were. Later, after the Tibetans stopped writing, through Alice Bailey, in the early 50s, Foster Bailey assured us that as he talked to the Tibetan assured him that there would not be any kind of nuclear war, annihilative in its potential. So we can only hope that that is indeed true. After all, Foster Bailey, analogously acted in relation to Master Morya and will continue to do so as Alice Bailey acted in relation to Master Kutumi and will continue to do so on their respective rays. So we will be closing with a consideration of our weekly responsibility, or at least our responsibility to the plan worked out in a weekly manner so that we stay practical about it. And this is an important point. Be practical and realistic, and know that if you do not give, you may not ask. For you have no right to evoke that which you do not share. Seems obvious, but it's to be kept in mind. So, what is then our financial responsibility towards the great spiritual possibilities for ourselves and for our group or groups? We'll ponder a little here. And we do ask in the name of the Christ and for his sake. And we expect, because our request is in line with the divine plan, we expect that the request will be fulfilled. And we sound the Om 3 times, precipitating love into the worlds of the threefold personality and into the world of the human personality of humanity. So we attempt to serve and spread love in our surroundings, knowing that if we can do this, we are in alignment with the divine plan and with the will of the great teacher who is embodied love wisdom. We remain alert to the many possibilities to give wisely, so that humanity may be uplifted. But I always think, that when HPB tells us that spiritual occultism has to win the day by the end of the 21st century, in which we are presently participating, well, that really is going to require our support, so that this great source of hierarchical knowledge, the ageless wisdom, can be widely spread and change the desires of the human race and the way of fulfilling those desires. All our work is done with the Christ in mind and with this hierarchy in mind, and love and money together, so necessary. So we value your meditative presence, and if you can help financially with this work of educating ready human beings and bringing the ageless wisdom to many, we are very grateful. We have many service activities, and the Tibetan has talked about the triangles. We help with that, and also the goodwill work that the Lucis Trust does, and everywhere there are groups that are supporting goodwill, and through the triangles the factor of goodwill comes. Our work with the Blue Rose Sisterhood, creating a chalice for the real energy of love, the Christ consciousness and love, and the wisdom to apply it correctly. This is a very needed type of work, taking us beyond simply using words, but exposing us directly to that great energy of love, and contributing to the brotherhood, sisterhood, which one day under Venus will be the expression of the Aquarian age. We continue our educational work with the Moria Federation, the internet aspect of the University of the Seven Rays, and we go deeply into esoteric matters, trying to bring forward as much of that curriculum for the new preparatory schools as is possible to us. The curriculum offered by Master DK. And we help with humanity's understanding of the new psychology according to the rays, astrology, and the science of the centers. It's one of the great tasks of the University of the Seven Rays. We offer you music that is particularly designed, composed to carry the words and energy of the New Age. So finally, our gratitude to you for being here, working with us in the Ask program. Ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. ASK, ask. It's the foundation of the science of invocation. On Tuesday night, we will have the work to be done with trying to understand the curriculum of being, identification as being, and I'll try to put up the link here on the YouTube channel, and probably you have the link, or just write to me, infinitize8@gmail.com, and get on the constant contact list of the Moria Federation, and you'll see all of our programs, and you'll be invited to participate in them. Okay, friends, I guess that's going to be it for right now. Tuija and I and the whole team send you lots of love and many blessings, and we'll continue to work in this esoteric way as in a much expanded manner the work goes forth over the radio. That's what DK said 70, 80 years ago. Well, our radio has turned out to be the whole internet, and we're reaching far and wide into many countries and carrying the note of the ageless wisdom to people who could really benefit from that and can spread the word. So, many blessings, lots of love, and we'll be working with you next week. It'll be the morning schedule. Starts on Wednesday. There'll be a couple of traveling days in there. We'll let you know. We're going back to the south to the Temple of Silence. Here we're in the Little Bear Meditation Center. Doing the work wherever we find ourselves, at least trying. Okay, bye for now.